If I were to ask you guys, what romance anime has left the biggest impression on you, I'm sure the responses would vary. Some of you may say Toradora, while others may say something like Karakai Jouzu no Takagi-san. That's just the natural process of things. As people, we all gravitate towards different pieces of fiction. But in my case, it has to be a story that took the world by storm a few years back. This silly little series called Chuunibyou Love and Other Delusions. Chuunibyou Love and Other Delusions was one of the first romance anime that I ever watched. Today, we are going to be re-exploring Chuunibyou Love and Other Delusions, and how this anime about weirdness stacked on top of more weirdness at one point changed my life. This video is going to be a little bit on the longer side, as we're going to be exploring episodes 1 through 12, so sit back, relax, maybe grab a snack, and enjoy this video. The very first episode begins a little differently compared to other anime. Rather than being directly introduced to our cast, or even our setting, we are instead introduced to a very unique phenomenon coined as 8th grade syndrome, or more notably known as Chuunibyou, which is by definition described as the delusional behavior exhibited by some adolescents and young adults, often involving the belief that they possess special powers or a unique identity. This is the phenomenon that our protagonist, Yuuta Togashi, previously suffered from in his adolescence. When he was a kid, he believed himself to be a character called the Dark Flame Master. But before we really get to see more, the Dark Flame Master is immediately contrasted with a more adult-looking Yuuta, who is visibly not pleased at what he's observing. Before any words can even be said, we're given a very clear idea of where the story is heading. Chuunibyou is a chip on Yuta's shoulder. It's something that as he's grown older, he's gradually strayed away from. But as he's in the middle of disposing of his old Dark Flame Master equipment, a strange girl tosses a rope down and moments later comes climbing down. Without saying much, she makes a vague statement of, "Did you see?" Of course referring to her panties. And of course Yuuta denies, only for her to follow with, "Do you want to see?" Then the scene comes to an abrupt end. I always love seeing this intro because this tells you so much about the story without saying anything at all. You have Yuuta throwing away his Chuunibyou related stuff, and in unison, you have some random girl in the middle of the night wearing a strange eye patch with the moon hitting her back, almost as if she's some higher being or something. Yuuta and this girl in the moment fully contrast one another. Yuuta is trying to leave all this behind, while this girl is instead seemingly embracing it. Moments later, during Yuta's first day of school, he runs into... oh wait, wrong character. We'll talk about her later. He runs into this mysterious girl again who uses the force to open the train door. No, she doesn't actually do that. She waits for it to manually open, then struts in. Kinda silly when you think about it like that, but I digress. This interaction catches Yuuta by surprise, making it so that he's almost late on his very first day of school. But when he eventually does arrive at school and enter his classroom, he notices that nobody else from his prior school is there, unsurprisingly, since he chose a faraway school on purpose to escape from his Chuunibyou-rooted past. And it's here that we see one of the first themes that I want to explore in this video: the past versus the present. Yuuta is a character deeply haunted by his past, from asking his sister if he looks normal to throwing away everything that he previously loved. Yuuta is consciously trying to suppress his past, everything related to the Chuunibyou, all of it. He doesn't want any part of it. This is important because this theme gets explored all throughout the season, and this becomes a very central component to the story. In the middle of class, the mysterious girl once more makes another appearance, this time causing a full-out scene resulting in Yuuta being forced to take her to the nurse. It's here that Yuuta also decides to confront her about being on his balcony last night, but realizes that she's too far gone in her Chuunibyou and can't even really hold a normal conversation. But somehow she knows about the Dark Flame Master. curious as to how she knows about the Dark Flame Master. We get some bullying scenes. We'll see a lot of these later on. This is pretty notorious with this series, I'd say. But it's eventually revealed that she saw him being a weirdo a few minutes earlier, and their conversation comes to a sudden end. And right when Yuuta thinks that he's done with that weirdo for good, he's once again forced to interact with this girl as she's lost her wallet, which then turns into him needing to walk her home. But when he does, best believe that this girl, known as Rikka Takanashi, we won't call her Mysterious Girl the whole time, she's up to all sorts of shenanigans, from putting in mysterious codes in the vending machine to coming up with ultimate abilities. You name it, she's just up to a lot of chunibyo things. But these scenes of Rikka and Yuuta until the very end of the episode showcases something very unique that essentially is the core of chunibyo love and other delusions. I kind of already touched on this a little bit earlier, but Rikka and Yuuta are parallels to one another. Yuuta at one point previously loved being the Dark Flame Master. He loved being chunibyo, but because of his chunibyo, he was often excluded and eventually grew out of it despite loving it. While Rikka instead continues to be chunibyo despite being told that it's not real or despite being seen as strange. This creates a very unique dynamic in their relationship that can be seen even as early as the beginning of the story. Innocence versus the loss of innocence. And beyond that, wanting to be yourself versus wanting to change. The episode concludes with Rikka convincing Yuuta to keep his Dark Flame Master items, and we even get to see a little bit of Dark Flame Master slip out. Transitioning into the second episode, we see a little more of what exactly differentiates chunibyo love and other delusions from your average romance anime. The second episode begins with a new character, who's referred to by Rikka as the priestess entering the narrative.
Chimera's magical powers cause excessive immunoreaction in the priestess.
This character is none other than Rikka's sister, Takanashi, who she's currently living with. The core of this episode is that Rikka finds a stray cat and intends on keeping it, except that she can't because her sister is allergic to cats. She intends on asking Yuuta to keep the cat, but Yuuta strictly denies it.
Therefore, I must ask my most trusted comrade, Dark Flame Master, to—
Absolutely not.
So the cat is essentially homeless. So again, left with no other choice, Rikka decides to keep the cat in secret, but she is caught by her sister, who literally shifts the series into a fighting game. And this right here is where chunibyo truly stands out. It's a romance anime, yes, but with the inclusion of super unique moments like this. The fights that we see in this series becomes almost like a staple of chunibyo. So much so that I've sometimes even seen characters like Rikka be placed in fighting games. You will see a lot more fights going forward, especially in the latter half of the story. Episode 2 ultimately ends with Yuuta choosing to take care of the cat and also deciding to keep one of his model guns from the pile of Dark Flame Master items. So this is my fourth time or so rewatching, and something that I haven't noticed until now was that with the conclusion of each episode, Rikka gradually cracks through Yuta's defenses, allowing him to accept more parts of himself bit by bit. In the first episode, he made up his mind to keep the Dark Flame Master equipment in general, and in the second episode, he makes up his mind to indulge in some of that Dark Flame Master equipment. And this is seemingly mostly due to Rikka. Subtle detail, but I'd never really noticed this before, so this stood out to me. In the third episode, it comes time for the students to pick a club to join, but rather than joining, Rikka decides that she wants to establish a club.
Secret base?
We will disguise it as an ordinary after-school club.
But in order to do this, they'll need 5 members to join. That's not too many people, but since the club is called Eastern Far Magic Society, it doesn't really appear all that striking, so people actively avoid it.
This is strange. Why do you think no one signed up?
The club later goes through a revision and becomes the Eastern Far Magic Nap Society when Rikka merges the club with newfound member Tsuyuri Kumin, their senpai who is also trying to establish a club but isn't having any luck.
The napping club?
Yes. Are you interested? Do you nap? Huh?
But with 3 members, Rikka, Kumin, and Yuuta, they're only missing 2 more people, so Rikka decides to call in reinforcements. We're then introduced to a brand new character who is one of Rikka's friends whom she met over the internet, Sanai Dekomori. Dekomori is, unsurprisingly, also Chunibyo, though her case is a little more understandable as she's still in junior high.
I'm an agent of the Eye of the Wicked Lord, Rikka Takanashi's #1 servant, the one who wields the Mjolnir hammer, Sanai Dekomori.
But nonetheless, she joins the Eastern Far Magic Nap Society, leaving only 1 spot remaining, that apparently can't be a cat. What's with these rules, man? But despite not having all 5 members currently, Nana, their teacher, makes a deal with them. If they can clean out one of the empty rooms, she'll recommend them for becoming a full circle, which is what we see our cast do in the next few scenes. But now before Rikka and Dekomori get into a fight to see whether or not Rikka is fit for being Dekomori's master.
Be banished from this world!
A minor note on this fight, I do really like the setting. It's like one of those castles that you see in a vampire type movie. I'm sure they have a direct name, but I can't think of it on the spot. Anywho, this was really appealing to me, and I think this is super standout for a romance anime. The aesthetic they captured here is just, it's perfect. The fight ends very strangely, unsurprisingly. I think this is a draw. And at the same time, the group also finishes cleaning, and as promised, the group is recommended as a full circle. The episode concludes with Dekomori talking about some strange book called the Mabinogion, with Nibutani, the girl that we saw earlier, being contrasted in the next scene. Wonder what that's all about. Oh, and Nibutani surprisingly joins the club, which results in the name changing once again.
Far East Magical Napping Society. Summer thereof.
Oh,
What a name, man. What a name. But now the club actually has a full set of members. Yuuta, Rikka, Kumin, Dekomori, and Nibutani. In episode 4, Nibutani finally takes the stage. Why did the quote-unquote #1 class cutie, the #1 girl that every guy in the school wants, join the Far Eastern Magic Nap Society of Summer? That question that was asked by Yuuta at the end of episode 3 segues into episode 4 as the main topic of discussion. What is the deal with Nibutani? The episode starts with usual Rikka shenanigans, something magic circles, then the room getting dirty just after it got cleaned, yada yada yada. But after all is done, Nibutani finally arrives. I think that now is a pretty good time to mention this as well. Kind of unrelated, but since episode 1, Rikka has pretty frequently mentioned something called the Ethereal Horizon. We don't know much about it at this point in the story, but the Ethereal Horizon is something that Rikka is searching for. This is something we'll talk about later. I couldn't really find a good point to bring this up because it's something so subtle early on that you don't really notice, but just keep that in mind for now. You'll hear it really soon, don't worry. But the conflict in this episode is the Mabinogion. Remember that? The book that Dekomori was reading that I left super ambiguous in the last episode? Well, it's gone, and this book is seemingly precious to Dekomori. We don't know why, we don't know the backstory behind it yet. All we know is that it's gone and that Yuuta is the one who took it, on accident albeit. While they were cleaning the club room, he brought the book home to keep it safe. But what's strange about this isn't the fact that Yuuta took the book home, it's the fact that not only does he capture Dekomori's attention with this statement, but also Nibutani's. And almost as a testament to that, in the following scene, Nibutani asks Yuuta to come over to his house on Sunday, which again is pretty strange because Yuuta and Nibutani aren't the greatest friends in the world. There's really no reason for her to suggest coming over so suddenly. But nonetheless, Yuuta readily agrees. Forgot how down bad this man was for Nibutani. SMH.
Sunday?
yeah. If you're not busy, of course. Are you busy?
Oh no, it's just there's not really anything to do at my house.
But before anything, Yuuta realizes a crucial problem that may interrupt his Sunday plans with Nibutani, that being Rikka. If she comes down on that damn rope while Nibutani is over, it's finished. That'll be that. So he sends Rikka on a journey.
It's a portal to an alternate dimension.
No way!
I found it when I was in middle school.
Is this real? Probably not. But he's just trying to make sure that they don't disrupt his time with Nibutani. Fast forward to when Nibutani does eventually arrive. It doesn't take much time for this to all go south. First, when Yuuta leaves, she destroys his room, which makes for a pretty awkward yet funny moment.
Is something wrong, Togashi?
Then right after, it's revealed that Nibutani made the Mabinogion, and as a double bombshell, Nibutani had a chunibyo phase, and the Mabinogion was the product of that.
Shinka Nibutani? If you move it around like this, you read it as Mori Summer.
We also learned that in junior high, Nibutani posted the contents of the Mabinogion online, and though she tried to later delete everything, somebody, namely Dekomori, had already printed everything out and made copies. After finding this out and relating to a certain degree, Yuuta does return the Mabinogion to Nibutani, and once he does, Nibutani immediately burns it, hoping to leave the Mabinogion and her prior alias as Mori Summer in the past. Is what she thought, but Dekomori actually made more copies of the Mabinogion, anticipating that this might eventually happen someday. What's with these characters, man? And it's here that Nibutani reveals her identity as Mori Summer, the creator of the Mabinogion, and asks Dekomori to return all copies of the Mabinogion. But does she? Absolutely not. She doesn't believe that Nibutani is Mori Summer. And for the remainder of the episode, Nibutani does her best to convince Dekomori, but nothing works.
It doesn't matter how hard you try. You will never be Mori Summer. I'm telling you,
Nibutani is forced to take her L, and the episode concludes with Nibutani's status as a member of the Far Eastern Magic Nap Society of Summer solidifying, with her ultimate goal being to get rid of all copies of the Mabinogion.
So you've decided to stay after all then?
Yeah, at least until I take that brat down.
I think it's super interesting how with each character joining the club, they all come with their own motives. Rikka wants to find the ethereal horizon. Dekomori wants to serve Rikka as her servant. Kumin wants to, well, sleep, I guess? And Yuuta wants to be a normal high schooler. They all join together under different means, but still manage to coexist. I think that's something very understated in this series that I do love. The dynamic between these characters, especially as the series progresses, never feels forced. It feels like everything moves naturally, and that's one of my favorite things about this series. As we shift into episode 5, this is where we see our first glimpses into what makes this series so resonant with the people watching. The episode starts with another conflict, pretty usual at this point. Rikka's grades, specifically her math grades, aren't the best, and she needs to raise them and quick. But there's one problem. Rikka is absolutely hopeless. She gets distracted way too easily. This results in Rikka and Yuuta having no other choice but to host a study session together, but that doesn't really get anywhere either. Rikka either starts doodling or doing Rikka things.
Yuuta, get down!
I'm not falling for that.
Which results in the two taking a break from studying, albeit still having made no progress. But it's here that we see something very interesting. Rikka's home, even late at night, is empty. The only plates on the table are hers from eating alone. Her sister Toka is rarely home, according to Rikka, and she has no real friends or family aside from Toka and Dekomori. This moment paints Rikka in an entirely new light and shows the other side of Chuunibyou. We know from Yuta's experience with Chuunibyou that you are more prone to being avoided. That's just how it goes. To others, you look embarrassing, or you look like someone who should be avoided. And I think that just because Rikka is Rikka, and she is seemingly always surrounded by someone, that idea kind of gets voided. We're led to believe that Rikka is a unique case. She has friends, she has family. But that is just what we see on the surface. Behind the scenes, Rikka has no real family besides her sister. Rikka has no real friends besides Dekomori. This newfound loneliness characterizes her in a way that layers her beneath just that chunibyo, and this characterization is something widely unique to this series. Rikka is weird, but willingly. She chooses to be herself over validation. She chooses difference over normalcy. That is the type of person that Rikka is. And as we shift more so to the end of this anime, we will see a lot more themes like this start to emerge. Themes of loneliness, themes of death beyond surface, interpretations, things like that. So this is kind of a prelude in a way. The episode concludes with rigorous studying between Rikka and Yuuta, after Yuuta comes to realize Rikka's circumstances, and by the lords, Rikka manages to pass. The episode concludes with this super beautiful moment between Rikka and Yuuta, where Yuuta gives Rikka a new ID code, which is essentially a name for her email address. It's really episodes and moments like this that make me love this series so much. Watching this scene had me visibly smiling. So going into episode 6, I'm not really going to talk too much about this episode. This is a pure comedy relief episode. And this is also the episode before everything in the story truly starts heating up. This is kind of the transitional episode, I guess we can say. So I haven't really mentioned it because I'm not going to mention every little detail in this anime, but Ishiki Makoto, the first friend that Yuuta made earlier on, had been the conspirator behind something called the class cutie poll, which was essentially a ranking that the males made for females in the class. Pretty degenerate, I know, but this had been kind of an ongoing joke behind the scenes in this anime for a while, but in episode 6, the cutie poll gets lost and Ishiki is exposed. One thing leads to another, and Ishiki has to shave his head, and that leads to the start of his irrelevancy as a character. No, seriously, he really just gets irrelevant after this point. It's kind of tough. What I do want to add though is that I do like how, despite Ishiki having to shave his head and now being acknowledged as a weirdo, someone who the girls should no longer trust, Kumin still acknowledges Ishiki. She doesn't treat him any differently, and I really do like to see that. It feels like her developing interest in Ishiki is genuine, and once again, I really do like that. And this episode concludes with Yuuta staring at the sky and being told that his father can't make it back home from Jakarta, so they'd be visiting him. But almost immediately after, Toka comes to Yuuta with an important request. She wants him to come along with Rikka on their summer vacation, leaving the details super vague. We are now past the transitional point of this season, and as we segue into episode 7 and so on, we will be seeing a lot more intense and deep moments than we have before. So transitioning into episode 7, we see Toka's requests start to bear fruition. Yuuta, along with Dekomori, Nibutani, Kumin, and Ishiki, all go to Rikka's grandparents' home for the summer. But throughout the whole trip, Rikka is acting off. Not to mention Toka's super vague request and appearances, almost if she knows the exact reason but is hiding it, which she does, that she actually informs us about. This trip is super personal to Rikka. When Rikka was younger, her father suffered from some unknown condition, and it seems as though he had an inkling regarding his death that he chose to keep secret from Rikka due to how young she was. But in doing this, Rikka's memory is skewered. In Rikka's eyes, one day her father suddenly just up and vanished. And this sporadic disappearance of her father resulted in Rikka being unable to accept his passing. Throughout the episode, Rikka clings to the possibility that her father is still alive, that her father is still watching over them in this place. But when she returns to her childhood home, only to see that it's up for sale and nobody, especially not her father, is present, the reality slowly starts to set in. But Rikka refuses to accept it. She refuses to accept the reality that her father is gone, giving an all-new meaning to rend reality, shatter synapse, banishment this world. It's a denial of reality, a yearn to run away to the unseen. But even then, she's not allowed to do that, as she's utterly defeated without even the appearance of any magic or weapons. This fight between Toka and Rikka is something completely different than what we've seen before. Previously, we got Chunibyo versus Chunibyo fights, very fantasy element things. But this time, this is Chunibyo versus reality. Toka is not playing any games here. Toka puts an immediate end to things, trying her best to hammer into Rikka that this is the reality. Her father is gone, her father is no longer with them, and that she needs to accept this. But that's where Yuuta steps in to defend Rikka. Yuuta acknowledges that while Rikka may play the fool regarding her father's untimely death, a part of her does acknowledge it as reality. That's the reason why she continues the Chuunibyou act. She knows that her father is gone. So is it really that bad if she can't fully accept it? The answer is no, it's not. There's so many things in life that people just can't accept. And for most of those things, people actively find solace in the act of ignorance. Is that inherently bad in and of itself? No, it's not. Rikka's Chuunibyou is her defense, and nobody should take that away from her. In the following episode, episode 8, as an extension of basically what we saw in the last episode, Rikka and Yuuta basically elope and take the train back home, and I can't stress this enough. This is one of the most beautiful segments of this season. From the train ride back home, all the way to the convenience store trip, Rikka and Yuuta spend the whole night bonding together. The atmosphere, the feeling captured, it's so much different from what we previously saw in this story. This is the point where the tone shifts. This is the point where it's no longer just delusion. We are seeing some very real things here. Rikka, for the first ever time, experiences convenience store food with Yuuta. She even wears Yuta's clothes. She even acknowledges intimacy that she sees on the TV. And at the end of the episode, she stares at Yuta's face as he sleeps softly, with a sensation of butterflies in her chest and a certain heat that won't vanish. It's the quiet awakening of a Chuunibyou. It's Rikka realizing that her feelings for the Dark Flame Master might be more than just companionship. And in episode 9, that becomes even more frontlined as Rikka herself is becoming more and more conscious of her feelings for Yuuta. It's even reached the point where she can no longer be within his vicinity without becoming beet red or growing anxious at his presence. This episode is full of shenanigans regarding Rikka and Yuuta, where our cast tries their best to get the two to realize their feelings for one another, but these shenanigans escalate so much to the point where Rikka almost falls off the rails at the top of the school building. Needless to say, this was super dangerous and Rikka could have been gravely injured, but Yuuta puts us all into saving her, and when he does, they embrace each other tightly. So tight to the point where neither one of them can really deny their feelings at this point. And episode 10 is the product of the last few episodes in terms of recognizing feelings. This episode is really where we start diving into some complex emotions within this story. To kick it off without any hesitation, Rikka states her feelings for Yuuta.
I like Yuuta.
Master?
She loves him, she loves the Dark Flame Master, and almost as a double realization, in the next scene, we see Yuuta also realize his feelings for Rikka. And without wasting any time, the two come forward to one another about how they feel. But before Yuuta can fully confess, he's beaten to the punch by Rikka, who states her love first. And though a little bit upset at that, Yuuta follows her lead and also confesses and proposes a lover's contract. This is basically the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, but for Chuunibyou people. Nonetheless, it's very sweet, and this scene is... I'd say this scene is a staple in the series, honestly. But Chuunibyou is never very sweet, I want to say. It's never consistently sweet. What should have been a serene scene is immediately met with a tense duality right after. Rikka's sister, Toka, has received an offer to work in Italy. While that is nice and something to 100% applaud, that brings about numerous problems. For starters, Rikka cannot live alone. So Rikka's mother would re-enter the picture to take Toka's place as her guardian. Except that Rikka and her mother don't have a very good relationship. It's problem after problem. So Toka comes to Yuuta with a sincere request because she knows that Rikka is more likely to listen to him. She needs him to tell Rikka to grow up, to throw away the Chuunibyou and accept reality. Needless to say, Yuuta denies. But that brings up another point of conflict. Why is Yuuta denying? Why allow Rikka to search for something that doesn't exist? Why give her false hope? She'll continue searching for her father forever in her delusions, but she'll never find him, nor will she ever find the ethereal horizon. Allowing her to live in that fantasy is nothing short of irresponsible, and Toka wants no part of it. And though Yuuta wants to deny Toka's reasoning, He knows that deep down, it's true. There is no argument he can muster up that will deny the fact that what he's doing, what he's been doing, is irresponsible. This conversation leaves Yuuta in a very difficult spot as Rikka's newfound lover. He understands why Rikka does what she does, but at the same time, he understands that she needs to leave the Chunibyo behind. Episode 10 is a heartbreaking mess where conclusions need to be reached, but towards the climax of the episode, Yuuta succumbs to the reality of everything. The reality of Chunibyo, the weight of Toka's words, and tells Rikka to take off the eye patch, resulting in a fight between Rikka and Yuuta, along with a lingering tense atmosphere between the two. This atmosphere bleeds into episode 11 where everything falls apart. The name of this story is Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. But what happens when you get rid of Chunibyo? You just have, well, love and other delusions. That's what the story shifts towards. Rikka leaves behind the Wicked Eye upon Yuta's request and tries her best to conform to the people around her. This is what everyone around her wished for. They want Rikka to be normal and accept reality as any normal person would. And I'll be honest, this episode hurt to watch. It's almost like we're observing someone entirely different. Rikka is no longer Rikka. She is the embodiment of what the people around her want. A girl who doesn't imagine battles. A girl who isn't searching for something that doesn't exist. Watching Rikka try her hardest to be someone that she's not, just to satisfy the people around her, hit a very deep chord within me. I've been there. I think a lot of us have been there. From my experience, middle school was a period of conformity. I think that in elementary school, people had found the type of person that they wanted to become, but in middle school, people began shifting towards what was cool, what stood out, what would get the girls, the guys, etc. I was absolutely no exception. I knew who I was in middle school. I was someone who deeply enjoyed anime. I was someone who deeply enjoyed the beauty and even the most minor of things that people would write off. But I instead allowed myself to conform to the people around me. Why did I do that? To survive? To fit in? To be what the people around me were? In this episode, I really see that time during my life. Rikka wants to be herself, but that version of herself is widely denied. To survive, to continue being accepted, she was forced into a position of change. And to me, nothing hurts more than that. That's why watching this episode was so difficult for me. There's this strange overlying tension that is present all throughout the episode, that even our characters can feel, and numerous times they almost acknowledge it, yet don't, as if realizing that this is the way that things are supposed to be. And at the climax of this episode, where Rikka leaves to go visit her father's grave with her mother, it's heartbreaking. Rikka wants Yuuta to stop her from leaving. She wants him to affirm her chunibyo, to give her permission to be herself, but he doesn't. He instead sees her off with a smile. Deep down, Yuuta knows this isn't what he wants. Yet who is he to defy reality? Who is he to encourage Rikka to keep searching for her father? To keep searching for the ethereal horizon while knowing that it doesn't truly exist? If he were to do that, he would be, as Toka put it, being irresponsible. There's a deep-rooted conflict here, reality versus delusion, and no matter how badly Yuuta wants to change the reality of the world, he can't. He doesn't have the powers of the Dark Flame Master. But when Rikka leaves and doesn't come back from her trip, Yuuta is forced into a decision. He was the one who brought about her leaving. He was the one who inspired her to leave the Chunibyo behind and become normal. He can either let this boring, mundane life continue, or bring back the wielder of the Wicked Eye. And of course he chooses the latter. Yuuta travels all the way to Rikka's grandparents' house in the middle of the night, and along the way, he's given more information about Rikka that changes everything in the story thus far. Unlike him, Rikka didn't naturally develop Chunibyo. She actually inherited her Chunibyo from watching Yuuta. Since she moved in with her sister 2 years ago, the whole time she had been observing Yuuta, observing him day by day. She loved his ability to be himself no matter what, and that to her was the strongest thing in the world. The Dark Flame Master is the reason why the Wicked Eye exists, and through determination, realization upon realization, Yuuta reunites with Rikka, choosing to rewrite everything that's happened. And right next to the sea, Yuuta shows it to her, which she's been searching for so long. The ethereal horizon, it exists. And right there, in the midst of the ethereal horizon, Rikka lets all of her feelings loose. Her feelings about her father's passing that she's kept deep inside for so long. All of it comes pouring out. And what follows is a beautiful monologue about the truth regarding Chuunibyou. No matter how much one denies it, no matter how much one wants to forget about it, Chuunibyou is a phenomenon that writes someone's entire identity. Mori Summer, the Mjolnir Hammer, Dark Flame Master, the Wicked Eye. It may be embarrassing, it may even be considered disgusting, but it is a phenomenon that one carries from birth to death. It is a phenomenon that all of us must acknowledge as ourselves, not as something foreign, but something internal. That is the beauty and duality of the condition known as Chuunibyou. Episode 12, the last episode of the season, concludes with a direct contrast to episode 1, where Rikka is again on Yuta's balcony in the middle of the night, but instead of confusion, there are smiles, a reminder of everything that's happened and where the story is leaving off at, which is a great ending for the first season. When I first watched Chuunibyou a while back, it was during a point where I was trying to fit in with the people around me. On countless occasions, I'd been told that I was weird, that I shouldn't do this, that I shouldn't do that. All these suggestions from others that would lead to me changing who I was as a person. And it stayed that way for a while. Everything I did, they all mimicked the person in front of me. But Chuunibyou, along with a long list of other stories, they validated my character that others had denied. They validated the weirdness and identity that I gathered for myself. All of these series contributed to who I am today as a person. But that change wasn't miraculous. I didn't become a whole new person overnight. It took time. Time for me to become okay with who I was. As I'm writing this, I find myself wondering, where would I have been had I not found this series? The clear-cut answer is, I wouldn't be me. I've lived a life where conformity seems to always be the standard, whether that was at home or at school. It was always expected of people to blend into their environment no matter the cost. I've seen so often that people will throw away every inch of themselves that makes them who they are just to fit in. The things they love, they'll throw away. The things they may feel, they'll lock them away. But nobody realizes that in doing that, they become shallow. They become untrue to themselves, and before they know it, they're living a life that isn't theirs. I've seen this so often, and to me, that is one of the saddest things in the world. People eventually find solace in their conformity, thinking that this was the right choice. They're accepted, they blend in, and that's all that matters to them. But Chuunibyou counter-argue that, and that stance, that defense of oneself, no matter how weird, how different, saved me a very long time ago, and for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you all so much for watching this video. This was my first time ever fully covering a 12-episode anime, and I'm curious as to how I did. Please let me know in the comments. Hopefully this video isn't absolutely bad. But even if it is, I had fun. This video is one of my passion projects, I'd say. I'm not making this video for the sake of making money. I'm not making this video for the sake of any of that. This is a video that I wanted to make a long time, so I set my heart to it. I put many hours into this video. I put so much time into this video, and this is the result. Again, if this video does completely suck, let's not be too hard on me in the comments, Again, this is a passion video. I'm making this just out of love of the game. If this video does well, which a part of me does kind of doubt, but if it does, I will review season 2, and I'll even make a video on Take On Me. That's kind of the goal, but if this flops, then I'm not gonna do it. But aside from that, let me know what anime left an impact on you guys. Or if that anime for you was Chuunibyou, let me know what stood out to you. Was it the characters? Maybe the validation of weirdness? I'm curious. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I spent so long on this video. And thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Oh yeah, Discord in the description along with coffee if you want to donate to me. Thank you all so much for watching. That's the end of this video.